Salam and peace. This is Imam Abdul Malik Mujahid, and you're watching Muslim Network TV. We're always there on Galaxy 19 satellite, Amazon Fire TV, Roku, Apple TV, a whole lot of social media, and of course on our own website, muslimnetwork.tv. And this is where 24/7 conversation takes place, which are not taking place any other place in America. We are very unique. We are Muslim run, Muslim hosted. It's a conversation among neighbors, but other people of other faith and all faith and no faith are also participant in these conversations. The politics is in the air. Most headlines about politics, and of course, Kamala Harris being the vice presidential pick by Joe Biden is the big news. It's all around. I don't know how happy Muslims are because Kamala Harris was one of the persons who was not even endorsed as senator by J Street. J Street is the Jewish organization, which is little left of the APAC, American Israeli Political Action Committee, and they support two-state solutions. They're considered somewhat moderate. They even did not endorse Kamala Harris because she's a strong pro-Israel, which J Street is also, but not accommodating Palestinian rights and things of this nature. So I don't know how Muslims are in politics are feeling, but they are running for offices in different places. I don't have the numbers, how many running for, for nobody for Senate, definitely, but how many running for Congress and other smaller offices. Rashida Tlaib, who won last time just by 900 votes, in a several party, this time was facing a real strong one-to-one competition. All her opponent endorsed the other side, and she is the chairman of the Council of Detroit in a constituency which is 60% African American. But Rashida Tlaib amazingly was able to won only with 900 votes last time. This time had double the vote of her competition. So she seems to have done the work which is pleased her constituent. And Ilhan Omar, well, everybody thought she is in difficulty, except she defeated an extremely well-funded candidate by 15% in a seat which is overwhelmingly Democratic seat, and she's going to win it. So at least two Muslim congressperson and the one from Indiana, of course, has a solid seat, which came to him, Andre Carson's seat, by, I think her aunt was representing that, a solid African-American seat, and is a Muslim. So a very diverse two Muslim women and one man. And we're about to see, and we're going to talk with her, another Muslim woman is running, and it's likely she's going to win. So Muslim women in politics are beating Muslim men. So what is new? Well, we will find out. I have two guests today. One is who supports different candidates, and she has served a whole lot of Muslim community and different organization, and that is Tahira Guraya. Welcome to Muslim Network TV, Tahira.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam. Tahira is the president and founder of Guraya Consulting. Tahira has extensive leadership experience in the not-for-profit sector as well as in public policy sector. She has worked for elected officials and served as advisor and strategist for numerous local and state races in California. And then she said, if California does not declare independence, I'm moving out. And she ended up in Massachusetts. Well, I still need to figure out how to say that right. 40 years in America. I think they will never make me citizen of the greatest state there. She has worked as National Director of the Council of American Islamic Relations before. So, Tahara, you have worked in for politicians, and now you're a fundraising chair for some politician as well.
I am. I'm currently the fundraising chair for Ihsan Lucky for Congress. She is in Massachusetts Congressional District 4, formerly held by Joe Kennedy, who is now running against Ed Markey. And I'm very proud to be part of her team in that I think she's incredibly viable contender in the race, but most importantly, she's a candidate with heart. She's the only woman of color in a 9-way race. She's Moroccan, she's Arab, she's Muslim, and a mom, a daughter, you name it, and she's amazing. And her platform is great. And I am very proud to support her and be behind her. And I hope that, and my role is to encourage folks to know her. The primary is on September 1st. So, I'm really just proud to be part of her and hope that we can get her across the finish line.
So, how Muslims are doing in politics? I mean, when was the first time you got involved in politics or policy?
When I was a kid, actually, it's been just something that was in me and who I am. I'm the oldest of 5 kids in my family, born to immigrant parents who came from Pakistan, in Punjab of Pakistan, and landed in California. And we were born and raised, all 5 of us, in California. So being, I guess, the eldest had a lot to do with it. Leadership roles in school, since I can remember. Always wanting to root for the underdog, for lack of better words. I was always sort of called to do more, appreciate the privileges that I have. And I think my first race, so to speak, that I was involved in was a city council race out in Bakersfield, California, where I'm from. I was in high school.
Wow.
Yeah, so, and then
seems President Trump would not like you. You sound like the ladies he labels at nasties.
Proud to be called a nasty woman, actually. I'm very proud to have that label.
You have one?
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that. I think his connotation depends on whose lens you're looking through. But I'm proud to stand up for what I believe in. I'm proud of how my parents taught me with the foundation of Islam that we have to stand up and give voice to populations that need voice. And I have always long been involved with social justice issues through the policy lens and at the grassroots level as a nonprofit professional. So,
how much you taking interest in politics, how much it has to do with you being a Muslim?
I think a lot of it has to do with Muslim. I think our faith tells us to stand up when you see something wrong take place in front of you. And complacency is not an option. And it's not how my parents raised me. Complacency was not an option. And I grew up in a community where I could count on like one hand the number of minorities that were in my school. It's still very much a white Republican bastion out in Kern County, California. I believe Kevin McCarthy still holds that seat. So I grew up in a very interesting environment. And so always having to give voice to myself, my siblings, the people around me. And so I think being Muslim and my faith has a huge part to play in the choices I've made, in the policies that I've worked on, the nonprofits that I've associated with. I think it's part and parcel of like who we are. We're called to act. Our faith is about acting on our beliefs, not just having a label of being Muslim. So, and I think Ihsan embodies that. I think Rashida and Ilhan and Andre and Keith before him, they all embody that. They are practicing their faith by serving others.
Well, tell me this. What you just described, you think it is grounded in your faith to serve and to seek work in public policy and all that. Do you think these feelings or this understanding is growingly common in the Muslim community? Because, when I read a survey about the youth participation, about 18 to 28-year-old Muslims are least engaged in the society. They're least registered to vote as compared to Jewish children or the Catholic or the Protestant youth. So survey says that. Do you think that is changing?
I think it is changing, and it will continue to change. I think the previous generations have laid a pretty good, solid foundation of how to be engaged at a local level, whether you get involved with the local school board or a local municipality, all the way to state. We're looking at folks who are running for state offices, and now they have role models of folks who are in congressional office. I think that plays a part in can you look up to somebody who's also that looks like me or believes like me or similar to me, and can they, and representation matters. I think young people will be more increasingly involved. My experience is that they are involved. It's not their traditional way of necessarily being involved through the masjid or an Islamic center. But I think they're finding other ways through social media and by engaging with other organizations that may be loosely or not loosely affiliated or organized. They are passionate about, I think, making a difference. I think the Black Lives Matter movement shows that. We had people of all colors and stripes stand up for what's right and stand up against what's wrong. And I think our Muslim youth will follow that. I am not completely familiar with the survey that you're citing, but I am not entirely surprised. I think it will take us time, but I'm very hopeful. I mean, the youth I see that are involved and the youth that I read about and hear about are just doing amazing work. And they're doing it on their own. They're not necessarily, affiliated with any one organization or a masjid. They kind of just get up and do it and make partnership with their colleagues in high school or college and just mobilize. And so I am seeing Muslims on almost every issue area at this point. There was a time 10, 15 years ago when I used to feel like the lone person walking into a circle or a meeting or on the hill, but now it's very different. I think our young people are increasingly more and more involved.
You're hopeful, but the way I'm hearing you is that it is more individualistic approach as compared to the organized approach. So that is good old Americanism, the individualism, and well, I'm going to do what I want to do, and I will run for this, I will do that. But sometimes, don't you think social media become still a sort of a escape route that you do share something and you think your civic duty is over?
Sure, I think there's an element of that. I've shared something, posted something on Facebook or Twitter or whatever platform, and therefore my civic obligation is complete. I think there is, in all communities of society, we have a segment of that level of activism. I also feel like there are many amongst us who are beyond that level of activism. It's beyond the posting. It's actually getting in a car, registering people to vote, showing up somewhere, writing letters, knocking on doors. Pre-pandemic and now post-pandemic, people are being very creative. They're hosting Zoom fundraising parties. They're having conversations with friends via FaceTime or Zoom to say, here's a really good candidate, donate, mobilize. Or for young people to volunteer in campaigns, they can still, they're texting potential voters. They are asking for money. They are using the email. There are various platforms and various ways that I think young people are engaged. I'm not entirely sure and there never was, I think, one organization that captured the American Muslim experience. There are many offerings, just like I think we are a very diverse diaspora of Muslims. There are just as many organizations that people can find and link to or find a home in. I think, for example, Sound Vision is such an organization that caters to a group of Muslims and fulfills that need and also finds a way that they can be activists. And then there's organizations like MPAC and CARE and new ones that are emerging like Engage and Empower. There's a room for everybody, I think, and a room for everyone to figure out a way how they can plug in, whether through an institution or on their own. So I am very hopeful, I think, for all of us, regardless of where you fall on the age spectrum, that there are many ways for people to become active. And activism isn't necessarily always running for office. There are many other ways to give and be part of the process and system. I mean, that's how I feel. We moved to Massachusetts 4 years ago, and last year I myself ran for a local town meeting, and because I really wanted to be engaged and know how to function and give back and be a voice for others. So I think there are many ways.
You're watching Muslim Network TV. This is Imam Malik Mujahid. I'm talking with Tahra Goraya, and you're watching Muslim Network TV. We'll be right back after these messages.
What was it like when you started this network out, when you started Sound Vision those many years ago?
You know, after 9/11, one lady called me and she says, what is your channel which I can watch? And I say, I'm sorry, we don't have a channel. And you know what she said? She said, then how America will know about you?
SubhanAllah. Anything you want to say to the people who are watching? We had one sister who messaged that she grew up on Sound Vision. What do you say to the people who have been long supporters?
Thank you. Thank you. It is because of you we are able to do all of that. So the generation of Adam's world, you need to take it over for the next generation. And that's my invitation to you. So keep telling everybody where to watch. They can watch it on Galaxy 19 satellite, Amazon Fire TV, Apple TV, or EasyThing MuslimNetwork.tv, or our YouTube channel, or our Facebook channel. And with your help, inshallah, ladies, the one who called me, what channel should I watch Muslims on? Answer is here and now.
Open up your eyes.
Assalamu alaikum everyone, it's your brother Zain Bika from South Africa. One of the first educational programs ever produced for Muslim children was the ever popular Adam's World series. The colorful and comical Muslim puppets stole the heart of a generation. Sound Vision will be releasing brand new episodes of Adam's World with the launch of a Adam's World app. Subscribers will enjoy new Adam's World episodes as they are released, as well as all the classic episodes of Adam's World. So visit adamsworldapp.com now to learn more, subscribe and enjoy new adventures of Adam and his friends. And let's keep helping tomorrow's Muslims today. Assalamu alaikum.
It's Adam's World. Believe me, there's a lot to see. Bismillah. Let's explore.
Welcome back to Muslim Network TV. This is Imam Malik Mujahid, and I'm talking with Tahir Guraya, who is a political consultant. And tell me this: so you seems to be satisfied that Muslim participation is good. Now, Muslims, in a large number, it seems, I don't have statistics, supported Bernie Sanders, Senator Bernie Sanders, as the presidential candidate, and in part because he had a more justice type of a stand in the international issues like Palestine or Kashmir, as well as good domestic justice focus issues. Of course, he lost, and Biden is the presidential candidate, and now he has selected Kamala Harris, who, as you heard me say, is so pro-Israel that even a Jewish lobbying group, J Street, did not endorse us as a senator because of her disregard to Palestinian. Do you think, what option do you think Muslims have at this moment? Because, of course, Trump is not welcoming them by lifting a Muslim ban, and Biden may give little lip service. So what don't you think politically Muslim are in weaker position when it comes to the presidential possible presidential policies of the Democratic Party?
I don't know if they're necessarily in a weaker position. I think look, the last 4 years have not been friendly at all to Muslims and a lot of communities of color, and especially your Black brothers and sisters. I mean, across the board, it's just not been a good place. And now looking at the way the pandemic's been mishandled, I should say, I still feel that Biden and Kamala are, for Muslims, the best choice, and for a majority of, I think, all of America, that's the only alternative that we have. Is there room for people to learn and grow? Absolutely. I think given that the Congress has changed so much, we have the election of Cori Bush, and the entire squad has been reelected. I mean, the face of Congress is changing. The face of, I think, policymakers and the types of decisions that are things that are being weighed in Congress, including in the White House, and what's getting airtime. I think that there's been a strong message sent via some of these elections recently, and the re-elections of Ilhan and Rashida and others, is that the pro-Israel money and some of the AIPAC dollars really don't speak a lot, as politics as normal or as what they used to be is not quite there. It's a new day. It's a different day. And that means, I think, for Biden and Kamala also to learn and see from their colleagues what's happening. And I think they will have to, at some point, reframe their agenda and their issues. So I'm hopeful that things will be better. They're not good today for anybody. But I think with Biden and Kamala Harris, I think they will be better. I think they will be much, much better. And I'm hoping that with their election, not only will it be a brand new day for America, the way sort of it should be, but then Biden and Kamala also have their own work to do. They're not perfect candidates, they as individuals or as a team, but they are the best and most qualified team that is presented before us as we speak. So I am on the camp of, let's not tear them apart as individuals or candidates. I think that this is the best and viable option we have. They are very professional. They're very great at what they do. And, between now and November 3rd, we just need to get them elected. I think it doesn't serve us, either Muslims or the community at large. I've seen a lot of debate since yesterday, since the announcement of Kamala Harris as vice president. Oh, she's good at this, she's bad at that, she's good at this, she's et cetera, et cetera. I think we just really, all of us, including Muslims, just need to get to work and get them elected, period. I am very confident that inshallah, after November 3rd, when they are in office, it'll be a much better day for everybody, including our community, versus another 4 years of Trump. So that's my take on it.
So you seem like you're a Democrat, right?
I am.
Okay. Were you at any time a Republican?
I was.
You were?
I was born, like I mentioned, I was born and raised in Bakersfield, California, and that is my parents were Republican. I think I voted my very first election may have been a Republican vote. I can't quite remember. But quickly, as I got more involved and engaged and learned more about the policy formats and the issues, the policy platforms, I changed, as did a lot of, I think, American Muslims, because we are traditionally socially conservative. And over time have learned that we tend to identify more closely to the Democratic Party. And I'm hoping over time that the Democratic Party also fully embraces the American Muslim, not only the values we hold, but some of the issues that we care deeply about, the domestic and the international issues. And I do think it's just a matter of time. I see a great progress in the types of discussions and conversations taking place within the Democratic Party. Everything takes time, and there is an established way of doing business currently, but we have new folks. We have new people who are helping educate their colleagues. And I think with the election of, Ihsan and others, we're looking at slowly more and more people adding to the mix.
How do you think Republican lost Muslim votes?
This is a long conversation and debate to be had. I think there were a lot of factors I think played into that. I think we got a lot of lip service, not a lot of action. I think there was some, I think the wars also played a big part, whether you talk about the first Iraq war or the second Iraq war, then post 9/11, and how Muslims really felt isolated and targeted instead of being part of the conversation or being included as part of the solution. We were automatically considered on the outs and the target as the source of the problem. So I think there were a lot of multiple factors that played into the mass conversion, so to speak, of American Muslims from one party to the other. I think a lot of the younger generations, maybe even my generation and younger, were already Democrats. I think it's my parents' generation and older who came in as Republican, as immigrants, and they kind of identified more closely with the social agenda. So I don't think there's one single factor. I think there were multiple factors over a course of time.
Okay. And the coffin was nailed by the Muslim ban, probably. Tell me this, many people, we got just 1 minute left, so a brief answer to my question. Many people who work as a consultant or a staffer for different politicians eventually run for office. Do you plan to run for office?
Well, I already did once last spring for a small local office. I don't rule it out. I mean, inshallah, one day, if the time is right for my family and myself, maybe I will consider it. Yeah, so I have not ruled it out.
Well, thank you so much for your time, Tahra Goraya. Tahra Goraya is president and founder of a consulting firm, and she is a fundraising chair for a congressional candidate, and she has served as the national director of CARE. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
We'll be right back after these messages.
We are Justice for All. Headquartered in the heart of downtown Chicago, Justice for All is a global humanitarian initiative dedicated to raising awareness for human rights concerns impacting vulnerable minority groups. We promote policies that protect religious freedom, address the root causes of mass displacement, and recognize the plight of refugees and forced migrants. Our diverse team of staff and volunteers, led by Imam Malik Mujahid, work tirelessly to help Justice for All achieve their goals. Past campaigns covered a wide range of humanitarian concerns. Through Bosnia Task Force, imams and leaders of Chicago's Muslim community worked to ensure Bosnia became a top national issue. This led to life-saving American policies in Bosnia. A key accomplishment was helping to get rape declared a war crime. Initiatives also included Kosovo Task Force, Central African Republic Task Force, and Flint Coalition, which brought awareness to the water crisis affecting the people of Flint, Michigan. Highlights of our work include supporting Black Lives Matter, Parliament of the World's Religions, addressing climate change.
So wasteful consumption starts the ruthless production, and that's where we need all the fossil fuel in the world.
And prominent media exposure.
This is Imam Malik Mujahid, President of Justice for All.
And I'm the Director of Outreach for Justice for All.
And that's why we need to go back to what worked.
Today we're demanding an apology from the CEO of Costco.
The Chinese crackdown on Uyghurs and other Turkic people has only gotten worse.
Current programs such as Burma Task Force advocate for the rights of Rohingya refugees in Bangladesh, internally displaced populations, and all those denied freedom of movement and at risk of starvation. Through this, we mobilized thousands of calls to elected representatives. This paved the way for the U.S. to increase funding for Rohingya refugees from $30 million to over $600 million. 2 of our documentaries were featured on international news outlets. The Rohingya People, A Slow-Burning Genocide on BBC World News, and Rohingya Refugees Tell of Massacre was featured on CNN. We've organized rallies, UN mission visits, expanded presentations on campuses, promoted research and report writing, outreach to think tanks, media, and other influencers. Faith Coalition educates about the Rohingya genocide and crimes against humanity faced by ethnic groups in Burma. We've traveled to refugee camps, convened a meeting of Karen, Kachin, and Rohingya leaders, both to encourage cooperation and to guide them in congressional outreach. We organized Rohingya Advocacy Day. This led to over 100 participants visiting the offices of 60 U.S. senators and congressional representatives. Free Kashmir advocates for the people of Kashmir. Long-term goals include the call for self-determination, the end of the Indian military's occupation of the territory, and raising awareness of Kashmiri issues among the American people. After the August 5th reinvasion of Kashmir, we organized national protests in front of various Indian government buildings, partnered with Stand with Kashmir, and launched a petition condemning the Gates Foundation's decision to present Prime Minister Modi a humanitarian award. Save Uyghur informs Muslims and neighbors of other faiths about the ongoing cultural genocide of Uyghur Muslims and mobilizes public support. Our projects include boycotting Chinese products with our Fast from China campaign, pushing Bill S-178 in the Senate, and organizing a nationwide protest of Costco. Together, we can continue to stand up for justice. Justice for all.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. How are you?
All right. Well, thank you so much for joining Muslim Network TV. You're on Galaxy 19 satellite, Amazon Fire TV, Roku, as well as Apple TV. Ehsan Lekki, am I pronouncing it correctly?
Yes, Ehsan.
Ehsan Lekki is running to represent Massachusetts' 4th Congressional District in Congress. Ehsan came to the US from Morocco at the age of 20 with nothing but a small suitcase. How small was it? And worked some minimum wage jobs to become the first person in her family to graduate from college. She is the only woman of color running for this seat. Well, how are you?
Alhamdulillah, as good as can be. I feel very blessed to have my family safe during this time and to be able to do this amazing work so that we can stand up with the community. I'm so happy to be here and get introduced to many across our country, across the districts, across the Commonwealth, who have been supporting and those who haven't heard of us. Very excited.
Why are you running for Congress? You have nothing else to do in life? Politics seems to be a dirty business.
It's been a life journey of fighting for the most vulnerable, of truly standing up for those who have been sidelined, and it's a moral obligation to step up to this work because the way we're doing it is different from what we hear. We keep our interests at 100% for the people, right? We're not here for corporate greed. We're not here for to put politics before people. We're here to fight for policies that are going to unite and our country and bring solidarity to our communities. And it's been a blessing to have this multi-racial, multi-generational, multi-ethnic, multi-faith movement building up to, inshallah, victory on September 1st.
So are you planning to be part of the squad?
I think the squad is big. I think you're part of the squad. I'm part of the squad. They have led the charge on so many policies that weren't actually understood or seen by other members of Congress who don't come with the lived experiences. A lot of the time when we think of politicians and policy, we think of how many PhDs you have, how many policies you pass at other levels of government, but we don't think of the very important aspects that actually builds trust in our government amongst our communities. And that aspect is what are our lived experiences? Have we struggled through poverty? Have we struggled through fighting for human rights? So have we been affected by international policies that affected our communities? These are things that matter, so that when we are in the policy making table, we are reflecting the needs based on what we felt in our personal lives, and we have a deeper understanding of representing the communities that have been sidelined.
So as a Democrat, probably you're supporting presidential candidate, Vice President Biden, right?
Absolutely. I can't wait to get Trump out of office.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, he is taking money from corporate PACs and lobbyists. Why don't you follow your leader?
We have to hold our leaders accountable. We have to push our leaders to do the right thing. And as you understand, it takes collective power and it takes an individual commitment to get rid of corporate money in our politics. This is a generational struggle in our country. And what we see is that the working class have been suffering for way too long. And I say this both as somebody who has, been through that struggle of being paid poverty wages, mopping the floors in the restaurants and pushing the strollers of the babies. And I say that not because I don't like mopping the floors. I grew up in Morocco and my grandmother taught me how to mop the floors and do a good job. No matter what job I have pride in that job. But what I don't have pride in is being paid poverty wages, facing sexual harassment and not being protected as a worker, is being in the richest country in the world and being poor. That is unacceptable. And it's, in our values as Muslim people in particular, we believe that we have to do everything we can to abolish poverty. That it's in our responsibility to change our laws and to change our regulations so that we protect the working class. I also say this as a Wall Street regulator who has been fighting the biggest banks on Wall Street on behalf of the working families, making sure that the biggest powers of corporate greed do not gamble with our economy again like they did in 2008 and do not give blank check bailouts. And I believe everything is achievable in America, and this is just another step forward.
Wow, everything is achievable in America. Well, you are one hopeful person, it seems. Why then people are marching and dying on the streets?
Well, this is not, listen, if you don't have hope in your heart, you can't get up in the morning right now, right? We're not just waking up to seeing how racism has played its role in America and how there has been complacency from our politicians who, again, a lot of the time they mean well, but they don't come with the lived experiences to understand the Black struggle. And I don't say that as somebody who, I don't understand the Black struggle. I understand the immigrant struggle. I understand the struggle of being a woman of color, being told I am. I understand those things, but that connects me with folks who are living the Black struggle and starts to build a trust relationship of where our struggle is intertwined and how we can work together to make sure the needs of the Black community are reflected in our government, are reflected in our policies, are reflected in our school system, healthcare system, environmental policies, housing. It's everywhere. And I say this, even if we try to economically fight poverty, and we can't only economically fight racism. It's going to take generations to fight racism, and it's going to take an interracial movement, intergenerational, interethnic, interfaith, to fight racism in every part of our lives. And we have to look within, right? We have to look within ourselves and ask ourselves, do we have bias? How can we learn about ourselves and our own limitations, whether we mean it or not, and actually work for that betterment of ourselves so that we can work for the betterment of society? And so I have hope, and that hope is what keeps me going.
Okay, so let's remain hopeful. So you are about to win, right?
Say that again.
So with hope, you are running with hope. Now, how many opponents do you have, and what are the demographics of your constituency?
So, with hope comes also action. We have to have action behind our words. And every day we get up in the morning, we have to decide, am I going to go be dragged about what my opponents are doing, or am I going to be dragged about what successes I've had on my own team, right? And so we have to be committed to looking at the successes, to looking at the goodness that comes from every struggle. That's what keeps us going and be successful. We are in an open race. This is the districts where Congressman Joe Kennedy is leaving. He's not running for this congressional seat again, at least not for this term. And so we, initially had 10 people, and now we're 8. And so we are in an open race, and we are the leading progressive campaign in this race. And that is very important, because we don't take any corporate PAC or lobbyist money on this race. And we don't take, any fossil fuel or executive or pharma executive money. We're very committed to not having conflicts of interests. And so with that said, we have a coalition of over 400 volunteers, alhamdulillah, who are making calls every single day, multiple times a day. Last time I was on a Zoom event, we had 74 people on. And they all are now texting and calling and reaching out to constituents. We are, doing amazing. We surged about 10 points over the past month alone, and we keep going. And look, there is an indicator that tells you how well we're doing. When you have people like Carlson from Fox News calling on you and saying anything about you, that means you must be doing right? When you are receiving that level of hate on national TV, of being called somebody ungrateful, of being called that this is not my country, we're seeing these repeats, right? It's like it's repeating itself. We've seen this happen to Sister Ilhan and Sister Rashida, being told, go back to the country where you came from. This is our country. And we're going to claim our power, and we're going to claim our space, and we are doing it right now. And we stand unapologetically in the name of justice and in the name of the most vulnerable, to fight for them and for their needs.
I mean, Rashida and Tlaib has made history. I mean, Rashida and Tlaib both are the first Muslim women to be elected, and now they have defeated their candidate, well-funded candidates, and in a bigger margins. So have they endorsed you?
I have been blessed to receive the endorsement of Ilhan Omar. She's a sister, she's amazing, and I look forward to working with her. You know, one of the biggest policies, and I know being Muslim is very important right now, especially because we are facing a lot internationally and domestically. Islamophobia is taking the lives of our loved ones, and we're gonna need people who understand what, you know, how to fight off things like the Muslim ban, or even threats of a Muslim registry, or even high surveillance to our communities. These things are very, very important to us personally, and we live this in our own communities. I say this as somebody who, you know, my family applied for visa over and over to come visit me, see my child, see when I graduated, see when I had Nora, see the birthdays, and they've been denied visa over and over. And there's no explanation, they never tell you why. So these are things that we are going to fight for. But there are also other policies that are very important. Ilhan Omar is fighting for a green homes guarantee, building millions of affordable housing that is sustainable across the country so that we can eliminate homelessness. And so that is a huge step towards eliminating poverty in the richest country in the world. And I look forward to working with her on that.
Hmm. Well, tell me this. I mean, how is campaign like in the pandemic, when people, you don't want to be close to people and all that? So Rashida Tlaib was going around knocking doors with her mask. So are you doing the same thing?
Wallahi, it's been such a challenge to not be able to be with people in person, you know. And I say this, I'm a hugger, and I like to be close with people, and it's in my bones, it's in my culture as a Moroccan American, to just have that proximity so that people can build the trust and get to know each other more. And I miss that. You know, Zoom does not replace it, but we do the best we can. We have, you know, people who call us, they text us, you know, I always give my phone number. We are on the Zoom calls getting introduced, and mashallah, our community is across the country reaching out, organizing fundraisers, organizing phone banks and text banks from California all the way to Massachusetts, and all the way down to Virginia and Texas. And it's such a blessing to have this movement behind us.
Well, tell me this. You know, you were a 20-year-old when you became an immigrant here. So what is that story like? Why did you choose America? I mean, of course, you can ask me the same question, but I'm the one interviewing you here. Why did you decide to come to America? I mean, most of the Moroccans go for France, which is close by and former colonial power, I guess.
That's right. You know, coming to America was a dream of mine since I was a little girl. I wanted to live in freedom. I wanted to have freedom of identity. I wanted to have freedom of religion, freedom of speech, especially meant so much to me, coming from a family that's been, you know, affected by the secret police. I have an uncle who was brutalized in the 70s, and growing up, you know, I've seen him with his mental health challenges and how that had wrecked his family. And so I wanted to be in a country where I can stand up to my own politicians and where my vote matters and where civic participation is encouraged. I want it to be in a country where I can have economic opportunity so that I can also help my family in Morocco, help them get healthcare, help them get an education. And, I lost my dad when I was only 13. He was a public school teacher, Allah yarhamu. And he really, he was my hero, and it broke our hearts, all of us, to see him go. He was also the main breadwinner. So one of us had to step in. I have 3 older brothers, and I help as much as I can. I don't come from connections, and I don't come from money. Therefore, getting a visa to go to Europe was not even an option for me. I'm just a normal girl that you can walk by and not even notice in the street in Morocco. And our family is very humble. But this is what America is about. It's about that belief that we can do anything here, that we can achieve anything here, and that we can have a true democracy. But we also have to realize that that's not a given, that anyone who comes here, as like people before us, have that obligation, that moral obligation to build in the good and to fight for this democracy and for our basic human rights. That's what I'm doing this work.
Well, you're going to represent Massachusetts District 4th, inshallah, when you win. But there are national issues. For example, children being snatched from the laps of mothers on the southern border. How do you feel about America becoming so cruel? I mean, you and I benefited from America, which was a welcoming America. That America is changing. So have you met Latino immigrant rights workers and people who are asylum seekers? Do you know their stories?
Absolutely. Mr. Mujahid, it's been a journey. When I saw the family separation, the caging of the children who died in the hands of ICE and CBP, the collaboration between our police and ICE, I know personal stories of people who have shared and of people who have suffered and are still suffering from that, from that crime against humanity. I think that, it was not new. I mean, as an immigrant, I knew my limitations. I knew that deportation was always on the table. And what that does is that when you are subject to, to sexual harassment or wage theft or more, or even gun violence or other types of trauma, that you don't call on 911. You don't call for help because you're scared. You're scared you're going to be deported, or you're going to be the one harmed in that situation. So I understand deeply what our immigrants community has been going through, and I've been working with from policymakers to lawyers to organizers to people who are undocumented, to defend their rights. And that's why I call for abolishing ICE and CBP. That's why I call for, let's make sure that we reform our immigration system. We have 14 immigrants in the whole 535 members of Congress. That is a problem by itself. We don't have immigrant representation. And when I say immigrants, I'm talking about first generation, very much like my story, who came here, went under the grind, the unnecessary suffering, and who understand the system and how we can fix it. So I can't wait to be there and increase that bench of the immigrants representing us in Congress.
That's an important point, that the first generation immigrants, which work so hard, define America, actually defining the future economy at Silicon Valley, day in and day out. And maybe they're too busy doing that, so they are not running for office. What do you think?
I think that I'm running for office to lead the way and to pave the way for others. And one of the immigrants who has been doing tremendous work, and she's a huge Medicare for All advocate in Congress, is Representative Pramila Jayapal. And she came here as a 16-year-old alone. So she understands really well what are the problems that we face in our immigration system and how we can solve them. I love that she's fighting for Medicare for all, because at least let's make sure everyone has health care. As we go and resolve our immigration issues, let's make sure that every person has the right to health care. And that, that's why I've been in this fight for Medicare for all since before running for Congress, organizing phone banks and rallies and demanding and making sure that the people's voices are heard.
Tell us when you came here in America all by yourself, and a young person, young Muslim woman coming from a rather conservative country, and doing small type of job. Give us your story of a job which gave you courage to move on, and give me something about lessons which you learn as a new immigrant.
So you want to dig a little deeper. I can see that, and I'm happy to. It's really, when you are in the struggle, you start to see the trauma of millions of other people who are going through those same conditions. And so the way I see it, and honestly, this is how I have hope, and this is why I keep going, and this is why I walk with my head up, is that I feel that being subject to those experiences really opened up my eyes on what America is truly about. That the opportunities for us to make it better are limitless, and that our idea of this American dream as somebody who's going to come here, who's going to start from nothing, and who's going to be sidelined and unrepresented, and then within 10 years they're fighting the biggest banks on Wall Street, and that is the American dream. I refuse that narrative, because I refuse poverty for anyone, and especially in America, where we have the most wealth. And I'll tell you a little anecdote. I used to, work in a restaurant mopping the floors, and I just remember, I also I mopped the floors and I made sandwiches, and I would try to converse with the customers and be as helpful as can be. And then one day, I was subject to sexual harassment, and I could not accept to work under that condition and protected. And I knew that the implications are going to be hard. I had rent to pay. I had dreamed to go to school. I wanted to go to community college and really start to push my way out of poverty. And when I, looked for another job and found that job was making power juices in a gym, I went to, I told my boss, I was like, I'm gonna be done with this job within a week. I found something new. I'll be here until you give me my pay. And he was like, oh, no, you can go. We don't need you anymore. Well, come back on Saturday and I'll give you your pay. And I came back on Saturday, and he refused to give me my pay. And he said he doesn't owe me anything. So what did I learn right there? I learned that struggle existed because we didn't have policies that protect the working class. We didn't have policies that protect immigrants. We all know that there are immigrants everywhere who are working in restaurants, being paid poverty wages, and being sidelined and being treated poorly, and they're not unionized. That's why, I the co-founder of Rock United, Fakat Mamdouh is his name. He's also Moroccan American. He's done an amazing job at helping restaurant workers, especially after the 9/11 attacks. He used to work on the restaurants that were in the Twin Towers, and he created this movement to protect the restaurant workers and to abolish poverty wages and tipped wages at restaurants. So we can take that fight into policy, inshallah.
Thank you so much, Ehsan Lekki. Thank you so much for running. Thank you so much for feeling hopeful for America. And I hope that you win And thank you for your time. Truly appreciate it. And thank you to Dr. Abdul Wahid, and a special thank you to Aliza Mujahid, who is producing our last show today. Thank you so much. You're watching Muslim Network TV on Galaxy 19 satellite, Amazon Fire TV, Roku, Apple TV, and of course on our website, muslimnetwork.tv. Peace and salam.
Thank you.